Hi, my name is Neil Richardson, and I'm the president of Sportsman Logistics. Thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to explain a little bit about what our company does and the exciting opportunity that is available for you to participate with us. Sportsman Logistics was created in 2023 with the goal of financing and empowering local sporting stores so they can compete with their big box competitors. Everybody recognizes that small businesses are the backbone of our economy, that they're the businesses that support our children's sports teams, our children's artistic endeavors. They're constantly contributing to the local communities. They also are hiring our local individuals, but supporting the small businesses is more than just shopping local. We really need a way to financially help the local small businesses so that you can not only shop local, but invest local. And that is the ultimate goal of Sportsman Logistics. Small businesses, especially in the sporting goods sector, have a number of challenges, and it typically involves the fact that inventory is their major asset, but banks generally don't finance these types of businesses because the inventory is too hard to manage and too hard to monitor, and therefore not really suitable for security. What ends up happening is the small business owners have to either pledge their personal assets or rely on more creative and often more expensive ways of financing their businesses. And what this ultimately does is leaves retailers with limited access to inventory and limited ability to grow. And hence they're less competitive than the big box retailers who have access to these types of systems. So what we are intending to do is provide basically a two-tiered solution to small businesses. Not only will we provide them with advanced inventory management, which allows them to track and monitor their inventory all the way from the moment they place an order with their suppliers, right through the moment that the product is either sold in their store or sold online. And secondly, given that we have this advanced inventory management system in place for the retailer can now obtain business financing that will use the inventory as security for the financing, and the sportsman will be able to track exactly where the inventory is throughout the inventory life cycle, which is something that current lenders are unwilling to do for smaller businesses because it's such a labor intensive and challenging process that it's just really not worth their time. They would rather focus on financing bigger companies that have significantly more inventory. What our system does is really address a number of pain points in terms of real-time inventory tracking, in terms of order management, not only from placing the order, but making sure that what the supplier sends the retailer is what they actually ordered, make sure that the quantities are correct, make sure that the price that they're being charged is correct. It also ties into the point of sale system so that the sales are being recorded and the margins can be monitored, and then ultimately gives the ability for sportsmen to provide the financing for the business. Now, if the retailer doesn't want the financing but just wants access to the inventory management system, they can certainly do that. But if they go the second step, they can also get the system in place plus the financing. Given that our business is cloud-based, we're certainly scalable. We can scale not only geographically, but we can also scale into other industries. But to start, we've chosen to stay in the local Alberta economy and to stay in the sporting goods industry, since that is where our experience comes from. The simple model of how Sportsman makes a profit is ultimately in two methods. The first and primary method is that we make a profit on every dollar that we advance to the retailer. So we provide financing for the retailer to acquire inventory. As the inventory is sold, we get our money back. We're now able to redeploy this money either to the same retailer or to other retailers and earn profits. And given that we can deploy this, the capital multiple times a year, it allows us to maximize profits for our shareholders. It also reduces the risk of seasonality because in the peak seasons of winter businesses, you can be financing them and financing less businesses that are summer-based and vice versa. So it creates a less seasonal revenue source for Sportsman as well. The retailers benefit from a number of ways. Certainly they get access to financing that is recognizing the value of their inventory, and that's quite key. But they also get the ability to have inventory management, and currently inventory management for the average smaller business is very labor intensive, very time consuming, and very inefficient. And our system allows them to do what they currently do either manually or with labor significantly more effective. So we think it's a win-win for both Sportsman and for our retailers. How we mitigate our risk to our investors is ultimately through the inventory control component. Sportsman purchases the inventory, so we actually own the inventory until the retailer sells it. We can monitor the sales on a daily, weekly, hourly basis, and hence monitor not only the inventory that's on the floor, but the inventory that's being sold and the capital that's being returned to us. We are only focusing on inventory that is non-perishable, and in the sports markets, because that's where our expertise currently is. And we don't want to be in a situation where we have inventory that if it isn't moving as quickly as the retailer likes, we don't want to be up against a best before date or an expiry date, which would reduce the ability to minimize the risk. So, and then we have mechanisms in place to sell inventory. So if a retailer is having a challenge liquidating the inventory, we can help them with that component as well as part of the inventory management process. We are intending to start in the Calgary-Banff corridor. We feel that it's good to start local and grow from there as we scale both geographically and in different industries. But that's where we've chosen to start. We do intend to secure other retailers, ideally in the soccer and tennis, hockey, there's gymnastics. There's really a number of sports and sports-related industries that this system and this financing would be very useful for. And as we grow, we will continue to add businesses not only locally, but we will expand throughout Alberta and then ultimately throughout Canada. One of the other key components of our business model is the community building that we do with not only the retailers, but with the investors. As an investor in Sportsman, you're entitled to product discounts and perks and benefits from our retailers, so that you get an additional return being an investor, but the retailer also gets access to new and customers for them that you may not be currently a shopper at that running shoe store, or you might not be buying soccer products from that soccer store. But as an investor in Sportsman, you get access to all of the different stores and with the appropriate discounts that we will negotiate with them. So it really builds a shop local, invest local, support local community. We think we have some great momentum and we're looking forward to the future growth. The Sportsman Logistics really started in Ski Cellar Snowboard. Ski Cellar Snowboard is a local Calgary retailer that's been in business for over 75 years. And when we got involved, we started to look at the computer systems and the back-end systems for inventory management. We also started looking for financing for the business. And what we discovered is that the two components really worked well together. So we were able to, for 3 or 4 years, actually develop the computer software systems and to test it in real time live retail operations with multi-stores. So it really gave it a true thorough beta testing, as it were, for the product. And so it's not at a stage where we are looking to develop a system. We've actually done all of that work, and we're now looking to launch this and expand it to other retailers within the local community and ultimately in the broader community. Currently, we're using Equivesto as the crowdfunding portal for the investment opportunity. And we did a pre-registration with Equivesto, so we did some sampling of the potential investor community to see if there was an appetite for this type of investment and for this type of product, and the response we got was very favorable. So it encouraged us to take the next steps and actually formally launch the crowdfunding campaign, and that's where we are right now. In terms of competitors, there aren't really a ton of competitors that operate in our niche space, and that's primarily because of the size. The ability to do inventory management on the level that you need to do financing is just out of reach for the small businesses. The costs are very cost prohibitive. The labor is very intensive. To put a new system in place is very disruptive to your existing business. And so typically you find that inventory management is only done with, at the level you need it to be done, it's only done with the big box retailers. And the financing especially is only done on large loan amounts. You know, the conventional banks are wanting to lend money to retailers that have millions and millions and millions of dollars of inventory, because the costs and hassle to actually monitor that inventory, whether it's $5 million or $500,000, is really the same. So the economies don't really work for the lender if you aren't focused on large loans. That's where we discovered the market opportunity, as there are an awful lot of small and mid-sized businesses that need the inventory management and need access to capital. And the conventional banks and other lenders really aren't servicing the market. One of the biggest challenges we hear when we speak to small businesses is typically, how do I get good people and where can I get capital? And we can't solve the access to good labor, but we can certainly help with the access to good capital. Sportsman Logistics was started by myself and my partner David Snell. My background is in historic building restoration and in corporate commercial law. So I have sort of the technical background in the development logic-based analysis. I got involved in ski cellar snowboard at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and that's where we started the migration to a larger inventory management system, and that's sort of where the roots of Sportsman Logistics came from. David Snell's background as an engineer is primarily in the technology sector, so he's obviously instrumental in creating the technology systems that we need to do the inventory management process, and he also has the public board experience for dealing with, we're not a public company, but as you grow with more and more investors, that background in public companies certainly comes in useful for what we intend to do. So we think it's a good team, and the benefits is because of all the development that was done before, we aren't charging management fees and salaries and things that would dilute the investor's return. We are able to proceed with profits going directly back into the shareholders' pockets. The investment opportunity, this is where the crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding portal comes in, and this is where we're using a company called Equivesto to do this for us. But essentially, we are selling non-voting preferred shares. The minimum investment is $500, and you can invest all the way up to tens of thousands of dollars if you so choose. The product is structured as dividends. So typically dividends are taxed more favorably than active income or interest income. Even capital gains now are under pressure of being taxed at a higher rate under the proposed federal budget. So the dividends, we feel, is a really attractive way for the investors. In addition to that, you get the perks and the benefits that we will negotiate with our individual retailers as we are onboarding more and more retailers. There'll be more and more perks. Currently, Ski Cellar Snowboard is offering product discounts to the sportsman investors. So that adds to the return. Our goal is ultimately to raise $1.5 million. We want to do that over the next 12 months. We have certain milestones at 250,000 and 750,000 that we will go through as we reach those targets. And the equity crowdfunding model really works well for that. In terms of the use of the proceeds, almost all of the proceeds, about 75 to 80% of the proceeds are set aside for the inventory acquisition for the retailers. So the primary use of the funds is to get the capital to the retailers so that they can acquire the inventory they need. There's a little bit of marketing, a little bit of working capital, and a little bit of financing costs involved to do this, as there is with any company, but the bulk of the assets, the bulk of the funds is used for the assets for the retailers. We certainly expect to have very competitive returns for the investors, dividends of up to 11% per year. These will be paid quarterly to the investors, and it is done as a dividend for the tax benefits. So we think it's an attractive model. So in short, the impact of your investment is really to help small business in the local market. You're not only securing a financial return for yourself, you're supporting the local economy and providing fundamental access to capital and access to inventory management that these small businesses truly need. And together we really believe that it can be successful not only for Sportsman Logistics and its investors, but for our retail customers. If you would like more information, there's full details at the website equivesto.com, and all the information is there in order for you to review the offering and to decide if you'd like to invest. If you want to proceed, it's no different really than setting up an account with, say, a stockbroker or a Questrade or one of those types of organizations. There's a certain amount of due diligence they have to do on the investors to make sure that this is a suitable investment for you, and a certain amount of information obviously you have to provide to them in order to meet the Securities Commission rules and regulations, but relatively pain-free, and we think the returns will be very good for you. So thank you again for listening to me and for allowing me to explain our vision for Sportsman Logistics, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye. Anything you want me to